those certificates. You post yourself to go and buy them.
There are
so
those,
that
yes.
So that you can determine.
Perhaps you'll watch it and then you get an understanding of those issues.
But on the expose again itself, it's not true that it looked at how NSC is registered. There were allegations on camera by one of the guys that they had paid Ministry of Education people, and then after the thing aired, I think it was KAA, either Airport Authority or Civil Aviation Authority, KCA. Yeah, they came out and said that they haven't accredited this college. You know, my question is, has somebody in government accredited it, and who is it? What is the system for accrediting colleges? Sometime, I think it was last year or the year before, the government had said it would publish a list of accredited colleges. This was reported. Where is that list? Media forgot about it. You know, so it should be easy if they've published it, put it on our website for people to go through and check and say these are the accredited colleges. Who has accredited them? Has Nairobi Aviation College been accredited, and who has accredited it? Kaimenyi, the CS, was on the show, was on the piece, was on Dennis Okari's piece, and he was laughing. You know, I found that atrocious. You know, it is the failures in his own ministry, and he doesn't take any responsibility for them. You know, and this is a pattern across the entire government. When I say that we need to be seeing this as holistic, the fact is our education system, and I'm sure you'll discuss the Form 1 entry thing, at every level is failing. The education we are giving our primary school students is rubbish. They can't pass. You know, and then we try and cover that up by essentially saying it doesn't matter whether or not you had high marks, you'll go to any place, you know. And then at the end, we find that they're getting fake diplomas, you know, and stuff. Okay. The entire system has collapsed. We need to be looking as media at how do we resolve this. What are the legislative remedies that we need? What are administrative ones? What has actually gone wrong?
But would you agree that especially on the Form 1 selection, the media has kept the pressure on in terms of examples from different counties, students? Even today, you just have even a student interviewed, examples of, you know, who they are, from which schools, the marks they scored, the schools they'd chosen, protests from the parents.
Let me ask, what's the system for selecting Form 1s?
That information, has it been made public?
What are alternatives? Where is the problem? You know, why do we have so many kids doing class 8? Huge numbers of them falling out. What do we do with them? You know, what is the structure of our system? Does it actually work for Kenya? I keep mentioning the Koech report, you know, which I would really urge anybody who can get his hands on it to go and read it. You know, it talks of not changing small bits here and there, that we've got to see the education system in a holistic fashion. Okay. You know, and that is where we are failing, is we're not seeing this. And Weshiba here as an MP, they should be the people pushing. This was a report done using publication. I think we spent 1.2 billion on it, you know, and it's just been forgotten. You know, it's gone.
Member of Parliament, do you think the media is covering the issues Gadara has been talking about in terms of holistic manner, bringing out the context, where it is we've come from, where we are, some of those reports, he says, that have been done, and what we're seeing playing out now from Form 1 selection? There's also the question of the teachers, and, you know, although on a different note, but as far as the issues plaguing education, has the media brought out the full picture, in your opinion?
I think it has brought the whole picture. The issue of selection of Form 1, I've seen it's mentioned so well. The issue of even the issue of what do you call it? The ranking, the failure of a government to rank schools, and it's fairly, to me, fairly it has done its best.
Geoffrey.
Again, we've been on it for the last 1 month, since KCP was released late last year. The medias I should say, has extensively covered the issue of how the exam was released, admission, that is transiting from primary school to secondary school, the challenges, the joys, the sorrows, and the cries of those who have missed out. But even as we have dedicated acreages of space in the media for this subject, appears like no one, especially in government, is trying to address, because you could have expected if like a student like this one who has 4 or 5 marks and cannot fit into a national school, yet if you look at that headline, the kicker says a student with 149 marks got lucky on a 405. So we are punishing success, but then the government should have, the best the government should have done and said, yeah, we are reviewing this selection.
No. Again, this is where I have a problem. Education is, I mean, across the world, people have different education systems, you know. But we should be looking, where does it work? Why does it work? You know, look at our own experience, look at our own reports, you know, that identify where the problems are. You know, what are the reforms that are meant to be made or that should be made? You know, so that we're not just saying that the problem is Form 1 selection, or the problem is fake degrees. The problem underlies all of this. You know, it is the system under there that we have set up ourselves, you know, that is failing. It is failing students. When you don't have teachers, for example, when you have teachers who half the time are not in class, you know, you've got to ask yourself the question. I mean, the guy who was being interviewed in Okari's piece shows that even in colleges, you know, you've got teachers who are not particularly invested in how their students are doing and whether they're learning anything. You know, the problem is systemic, and until we start addressing that system, you know, and understanding what it is. So it's not just this, I keep saying episodic reporting of one scandal here, one scandal there, without seeing the entire problem.
But Gather, as you continue to critique the media, you must give
it's due.
No, I mean,
credit where it's due.
I said on the Okai piece, I mean, I was quite happy. I'm not saying
even
that
on the
these
Form 1 selection.
Yes, I'm not saying that these exposés don't matter. You know,
because
they
media,
the
media they're not activists. At the end of the day, there'll be coverage. It seems also your expectation of the media sometimes really goes above.
No. The media should be thinking through this. It's your work, and I know a lot of people have. We've had this argument whether the media is there to make money or to provide a public service. I believe it does both, you know, and that it's got a duty, you know, to the public, which you guys keep repeating about your role, especially anytime your interests are targeted, about your role in educating the public, in helping articulate what the issues are. The media's role, for me, should be to be setting an agenda for the country. What are the important things that the country needs to be focusing on?
And
the collapsing education system is a huge issue.
Which right now, the concern is on the Form 1 selection, which has received a lot of coverage across the board.
So much.
Another issue in terms of education is the teachers, and now the irony surrounding the same with, you know, the quarry workers being actually charged and told to leave that particular region, that's Mandera. And on the other hand, you have teachers being told you'll be sacked if you don't go. So I think the current issues as they are, I look at a piece that you seem to imagine that has everything. That would be
no. Again, it's not one piece that I'm looking at. I'm not imagining.
I think he wants to.
But if we've had a month, essentially, of lots of coverage on education.
You want a month of coverage on education?
Let me finish. If you look at the content of that coverage, most of it has been either the problems with Form 1 selection, you know, or I think it was with the exams and the release or something. Anyway, for a month, you know, we've had that. But there are deeper issues that inform why we have a problem with Form 1 selection. You know, there are issues that inform, you know, why it is. I mean, think about it. 4/10 of these kids, you know, who did Class 8, who don't get anywhere, where do they go? Let's just sit and think about it.
All right, we need to move on.
I think I don't know whether really we are these student people who are said to have missed the from one. I don't know whether it has really been exhausted, because reporting is latest 10th. Then there's always second selection after the first selection. Two, the other issues that has been bothering many parents in Kenya is if as people has gone through private school, it's like they are discriminated, sort of. They are not given the opportunity, even if they pass well. The selection looks at so much about public schools than private schools. Nathara seems to want to, he wants to the media to do like a research. You go, get all the details.
The government officials.
Yet, in my view,
Yes.
Media is actually response to current issues, and as you are saying, there's this aspect of marketing, there's this aspect of money. You cannot rule out that. So maybe he wants you to go to watch report, to do a lot of research on whatever, but you don't have that space.
No, let's
if I was to respond briefly to Kathara, we've done our best as the media. If I were you, I'll say now, let's the other part of the society, who will include now a member of parliament, because parliament plays an integral role in the education system of this country, which include legislation, which include policy and oversight. So given that the media's brought out this, we have highlighted what we can do. Now what should be done, or what should now proceed, is that members of parliament pick from it, see the weaknesses in the legislation, in the education policy, and therefore probably take it to parliament for fine-tuning, so that we can address these loopholes.
These weaknesses that you're talking about in the legislative
briefly,
framework, you know, is what I want to see you guys talking about. What do you the certificates thing very quickly? Who regulates? We've got not the Commission for Higher Education. It was changed as the other Committee for University Education. That's what it's called. You know, what is its remit? You know, where is it failing? Are there legislative cures for this? Are they administrative? You know, what is the problem? Does it simply not have the capacity? Has anybody gone and looked at this?
Okay.
You know,
So they have the committee, the parliamentary committee on education. I think they are on top of things. They will take care of this.
All right, let's move on to another story as we bring this to a close. Peter Graster, he is an Al Jazeera journalist who had been in custody in Egypt for over 400 days. He was released recently. In terms of what this says about the journalist covering various stories, because he's traveled the world, he was here during Westgate, I remember, and he's traveled very many other places. And as far as the challenges and the issues in each part of the world, the fact that he could be in custody for such a long period of time in the world we live in today, Patrick, what does it say for a journalist going out into these hot zones, if you could call them that?
well, I think Peter's case highlights the dangers that journalists run, and especially in the context of war on terror, you know, which is, I mean, in his case, and the case of his other two colleagues in Al Jazeera, they were essentially accused of being mouthpieces for the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. You know, and let's not forget there's still two others left. You know, I think it does highlight the fact that many governments are using the rubric of war on terror essentially to cut down on dissent and to target journalists. You know, it's not just in Egypt's case happening everywhere. We've been seeing it here. You know, don't forget Peter himself was based here. You know, for a while. So I think it's important that as we approach this and as we celebrate the fact that he's been released, not to forget that there are wider issues at play here. He was released and deported. You know, we've got a journalist, one of his colleagues, being told to give up his Egyptian nationality so that he can similarly be deported. You know, there is lots and lots of journalists and bloggers in jail in Egypt today who are Egyptian, who don't have that option. You know, who are kept in simply for the fact that they dared to report and to say things that the government didn't like. you know. And we need to keep up pressure till these people are released, you know, until those laws are changed, you know, and to understand that they have a real effect on us here, because our governments look forward. We've seen with the security bill them citing the U.S. Patriot Law. Our governments learn from this, you know. They see Sisi in Egypt getting away with it, then they will think, well, actually, we can get away with it, you know, and stuff. So let's be, I think, on the forefront. Celebrate, yes, the fact that Peter is free, and I'm quite happy about that, but not forget that this does not by any means mean that now Egypt is opened up, it's a nice democratic country. Now, if anything, it is more a pointer to the fact that it is clamping down on the rights and of expression of its own citizens, you know, and that our governments can, there's a danger that they will be aping this and bringing that quite quickly to our shores.
You get that sense that other analysts argue, Mheshimiwa, that there is slowly creeping into the scene journalists coming under threat. Do you think the journalist is under threat in as far as what they can actually say, that they have to be careful to think and imagine, oh, this could, you know, come with consequences if I cross the line, if I do not say what doesn't make establishment happy?
Yeah, I think they are, especially in that region of Africa, I think we must know where it began, the Spring Revolution, from Tunisia right up to Egypt and to Libya. So even if you are a journalist and you want to do as much as you want to do in terms of reporting, but in my view, you should be careful, sincerely, because in Egypt particularly, there is a very strong, very powerful military organization.
But is that to say that you don't bring up the ills?
I've not finished.
Okay.
Not to be defensive so much. So the issue is, as you report, in a country that is not, I don't think that gentleman comes from Egypt, does he? He's Australian. So as you report, but you know, they were clambering. They were very hard on everybody. The army. They were really hard on all Egyptians, anybody, even foreign. What I'm saying is that you can report, but you can also be careful. You know, being careful.
What does careful mean in this? Meaning, have security around you? Is it be careful with your words? Do not antagonize the military? What do you mean?
I mean is that you report intelligently.
No, but that's the essence. If there are those issues, it's the role of the journalist, isn't it, to bring them out? So if the journalist is careful, as you suggest, who then will be the hope of the Egyptian people?
It will not.
Who will be the hope?
It will not prevent you from reporting.
No, I mean,
Sophia, I think you're being rather simplistic.
Sophia, let me say this. First, we celebrate that our colleague, our friend Peter Grace is out. But we pray that his two colleagues who are still languishing in jail are released soon. Journalism is not terrorism. If you see what these gentlemen were charged for, is terrorism, for aiding a terrorist organization. Every single day a journalist wakes up to do his work. Not everyone loves his or her job. There are people out there who are strategizing on how to bring you down. And apparently, the government here, governments are the culprits. Not just in Egypt, even our neighbors here. There's a clampdown on our next door neighbor in Ethiopia of journalists. A clampdown is basically a clampdown. Most of them are even operating from here. In Tanzania, you saw the president the other day close a newspaper, the East African. Our greatest worry, even myself as a single individual journalist, over the security laws that Parliament passed last December, was we were on the Egypt way. Because we look at those clauses touching on the media, including powers to give NIS director power to direct a covert operation using all possible means. I remember when I was in college, my lecturer told me a journalist basically should be described this: during the day you are with God, at night you are with the devil. Why? You are supposed to cover both sides. So if, for instance, today the government of Kenya proscribed a certain organization and said this is a proscribed organization or terrorist organization, and you're supposed to cover that story, if you go and talk to the people in that organization, For instance, when MRC was proscribed, if you talk to the leaders of MRC and the security agencies, including NIS, track your conversation and realize you had a telephone conversation with the leader of a proscribed organization, you will be charged for aiding a terror group. So those were the loopholes which we foresaw were being created in this country to take us the HPT way. So we're saying that journalists everywhere, wherever they are, especially in the developing democracies and war-torn areas, Syria.
Okay, let me ask you this. The law in as far as broadcasting and printing of some of these images that are rather graphic, and some say that propagates what it is, the narrative and the fear that the terrorists wants to put out there. It gives them credence, it gives them that airtime to put their message out, and they get to win in that front. Yesterday, watching this story of the Jordanian pilot who was brutally killed. He's in a cell, a cage rather, and he's lit up brutally. It's crazy and insane, the nature of gory effect that this had, the brutality, the nature of that. But CNN in broadcasting this kept saying we're not going to show the images or the footage because it gives value to the propaganda that ISIS wants to put out there, which is some of the argument that government used, that at the end of the day, the media wants to put this out there, but doesn't it also just give wins to the terrorists?
You know the problem is that the government appears to be oppressive when it's dealing with the media. They are coming to engage us from a point of, you are wrong. As being wrong, we must do something too.
Why is that?
So what should happen? This is something which should be addressed in terms of administrative. There is no harm in the government. There is no harm in the media council. Ping and arbitrate here, calling the government, sit here, media owners sit here, editors guild here, KUJ sit here. Let's discuss. This is our country.
Okay.
These are the challenges we are facing in terrorism. Of course, once you publish those pictures of terror victims, then of course these guys say, look, this is what we have done.
All right.
I think the issue of the pictures you are talking about, the security laws were actually on that particular issue of pictures. We were advised, and I am in that committee by the way, we were advised that by the CIC that you be specific. Don't put it in a blanket form. So just be specific. For example, if in the Westgate attack, there were pictures showing somebody, a terrorist, holding a person and killing. If you expose that in the media, really, in the TV or even in the print media, how do you depict to the terrorist? You are making them heroes. Or if you display 10 people who have been shot, like those teachers, the teachers in Mandera, if you display them being shot by a terrorist, in the view of, in the eyes of the terrorist, they are heroes. They have already scored, and you are actually making them to do more.
Okay.
So those are the things that we should not allow to be done. We must focus those ones in the law, but anything else we cannot act. It's not good to.
Very quick points. First, on the issue of pictures, I think what we should be asking is who makes the decision. Should it be government that decides what you get to see that coming out of terror attacks? The law, the security bill, says that if you want to report on Westgate, you've got to get police permission. They've got to go through your report and say, yes, it's there. It says you want to put up a picture, the police have to say yes to it. Essentially, it's government to decide what's going to be reported. Now, if you go that route, what do you think you will hear? Don't forget, these were the very people who wanted to arrest Jonah Namu and Mohammed over the Wolves of Westgate expose. So we have to be very careful that while we can have standards which are enumerated in the Media Council Code of Conduct, that it is not governments that are making these decisions. They're not making editorial decisions for newspapers. When CNN says it will not show 1, 2, 3, it shouldn't be because the U.S. government has picked up the phone and said, if you show it, we will arrest you.
The law.
They make a decision themselves. you know, and in the end, that's what press regulation is all about. I mean, self-regulation is all about. That if we allow the government to be the one deciding what is the content in our newspapers, then all we will get is propaganda.
So,
let me finish.
We must wrap up, guys.
The second thing is, Washibua here is an MP. His job, in essence, is to hold the executive to account. Not to parrot what the executive is saying, you know, to hold them to account. They go out and pass laws, you know, or they suggest laws, they bring it to you. They suggest it, you need to go through it and ask, you know, are these laws compatible with the sort of society we are trying to create? When you're here suggesting that it is up to the media to be careful about its reporting so it doesn't antagonize, you know, militaries or governments, you are not protecting.
All right.
People you also want to protect.
I'm not just
you're in Kenya, and there are moves. Let me finish. There is in Kenya there are moves to clamp down on media, and you should be in the situation where you're protecting the press from the government.
All right,
Sophia, this issue of pictures is not just unique to Kenya. If I may take you back, if you remember the incident in London, the streets of London, by the Nigerian-born British terrorist Michael Adepelacho. I don't know that's his name, but I have not forgotten. He went and knifed the British soldier, Lee Rigipi, if you remember that that footage was captured in the streets. We were able to see what happened. And it was in the British cable TV stations and newspapers. We saw this picture, the man coming, driving over the soldier, knifing him and walking with the knife and threatening the woman who was saying, what are you doing? So it's not that, it's only in Kenya where we publish this or we air these clips of these terror incidents. It happens.
Okay. All right, we'll end it there, gentlemen. Geoffrey Mosoko, political reporter with the Standard newspaper, Alois Lentoimanga, who's a member of Parliament, Samburu North, and Patrick Gadara, who's a communications consultant. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the newsroom this morning. We'll take a short break. When we return, Michael Getanga will be next. Today, he's focusing on the process of divorce. So after you've gotten to that point of no return with your mate and you want to go your separate ways, how does it then work out? How does it pan out? What's the real process? How do you get into it, prepare, and ensure at the end of the day everyone has their share and avoid the drama that sometimes we see unfold? So stay with KTN for that and more.